Welcome everyone to the Winning Together podcast. My name is Shay. I will find you. I am the friend with the axe Aslet, and today I have a great guest. And don't let the name fool you. Squeekbug is here today. Now, we all grow up with names when we're growing up, and that is when we are children. But today, our guest is going to share with you how he went from child and is growing into being a man and making that recovery part and the lessons learned from the turning points in life, from the opportunities lost, from the times that he's been willing to get vulnerable, even compare and contrast the times that he was not willing to get vulnerable, and the treasure that comes from being real with real people and letting them into your life, and then taking that and becoming a real person for those around you. And I think I'm going to set you up a little bit. So we've talked a little bit about kind of the road to here, right? Well, on the Winning Together podcast, we've got to put things in context. We've got to understand why what you share matters to you. So I think when you come from a really painful experience as a child and you try and mature that as a teenager, and you're early 20s, so from some listeners' perspective, you've got a lot of maturing still to go, right? Yeah. But from your perspective, you have really grown into a person that you like more than not these days, right? So, a couple themes, like, you tell me, what are some big themes you want to share? Why did you ask to be on the Winning Together podcast?
It was actually one of my passions to be on something that I can contribute to the community in an aspect of without showing my face, without showing who I am, and just be able to put it out there and help people. It was huge.
What a great practice in ego smashing, because you're a good looking guy, you're affable, you're charismatic, and when we acknowledge our ego is like the size of a semi truck, then we can start breaking it down and understanding that's a tour de force in your life. It can also run you over and smash you at the same time. So I love how you're flipping that into something like, hey, this is my way to contribute and give and still get noticed and validation, but also in a way that it's about winning together. It's about the thing that's bigger than us, not about you and me. That's huge. That's huge. Hat tip to you.
Thank you. So
tell me about, we're fortunate. We had an arena talk at the I Am Recovery Studios. I Am Recovery is the recovery program outfit group that sponsors the Winning Together podcast. And every month they host this event where we have speakers come and they drop knowledge and experience in ways that you can apply it in your life. And one of the speakers, John Red, has been he was one of those real people at a real turning point that you decided to be vulnerable that has turned into one of those transformative moments.
Oh yeah, he's been huge in my recovery. He's probably been one of the people that have stayed there from the very beginning. He actually got me into treatment, my very first time, and he was the light of my day, light of my 60 days in treatment or in jail that it was actually there. And he was the first person that I wanted to go and talk to about my sexual trauma with my brother. He was the very first person. And it turned out instead.
So this is late teens. Yeah. You're in jail. A few things that you've kind of brought you to this point is you're in a place where you have actively put yourself in precariously dangerous situations, hoping that one of the outcomes is you not on this planet anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And after multiple times of failing hugely, you are in jail now, and you're kind of what gives? Okay, I've tried to kill myself multiple times by putting myself in dangerous situations. You've had that experience where gun to your head, be really being around really dangerous people frequently, using substances in copious amounts mixed whatever, and yet you're in jail, and your parents book up all your visitation, so no one else can come see you. You're a friendly guy. I know you get lots of like friends, at least surface level friends, or people that would willing to come run with you. You're a charismatic guy, and was it John or Drew that showed up?
John.
John. Okay, and he was representing Renaissance Ranch, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And like Renaissance Ranch was one of those turning points in your life that like just kind of come up. It's like one of those spiritual awakenings where it was like you go there and they break your ego down to pretty much nothing.
Which you were totally looking forward to.
Yeah. Not really. Hell no. It was one of the hardest but like most relieving experiences I've ever had. I probably cried more times there than I have in my whole life before that, which was insane because...
What crying was a sign of weakness for you growing up?
Oh, yeah. It was this sign of, like, I need to be manly so people can't hurt me. And if I show any sort of weakness, then I'm just going to be hurt every single time.
So to not be you, that's really hard.
Yeah, and it's still hard to this day. Like, I literally go on car rides so I don't have to show people my emotions. Like, just recently, I felt so brokenhearted when later on I found out it was lust, but... so brokenhearted over this girl, and like she was sitting there bawling her eyes out in the car, and I dropped her off and left, and I started bawling like harder than I have in a long time, and it was like I was so mad at myself for crying. I tried stopping myself like 6 or 7 times, but it just kept coming and coming.
What was the switch? Why did you feel like unburdening yourself of that at this time mattered? Why were you willing to go there? And what was, like, how did that become a transformative experience?
Going to treatment was this, so you're talking about treatment, correct?
So, yeah, but this was not the first time to go through treatment, or was it?
So the first time when John got me in there was my very first time.
Okay, so late teens, and finally you find yourself in jail, and you can do jail or come to this ranch that has all these fun activities, and you, like... And we talked about this earlier too. There's part of you that like thinks you're the smartest person in the room.
Oh, for sure.
Constantly, right?
Oh yeah.
So then you're like, okay, I'll figure. Like I can totally pull one over this guy. Like, well, you'll go here. But then you get there and you're willing to like unburden yourself of this painful part of your elementary years and teenage years. Why were you willing? Why did it matter to you? And what was the treasure? Like what made that suffering worth it?
Okay, so first off, the reason why I was willing was because the owner said he was going to pay for my treatment. And I'm like, that's $40,000. How can I fuck over this guy? That was what was going through my head at the time.
We do also mark the clean on this one.
Okay, so, sorry about that.
That's right. I didn't say before. No,
yeah. Okay, I wanted to screw over the guy in the aspect of like, he's paying $40,000 for me to go here, the owner.
What an idiot.
Yeah, I'm like, does he know who I am?
He deserves to get it stuck to him.
Yeah, and so I'm like, how am I going to screw him over? Like, there's got to be a way. So I'm going to go find a way because, like, this is a new way to make
One of your favorite things to do growing up is to go after the sucker, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, that was my favorite thing because I felt powerful.
Totally.
For once in my life, which I didn't feel that way for such a long time. And
you were gangbanging and doing drugs. You felt that all the time.
Oh, well, that's the thing. That's like, around certain people, I'd feel it, but then I would go home, technically not really home, but to, like, my drug dealers, and I'd get beaten up and like used. And so I had moments where I felt that power, And so like that moment where I was able to go there and everyone wanted me to leave. Everyone was like telling the counselors, like, let's just kick him out. He doesn't have the chance. Like he's 18 years old or 19 years old at that time. He doesn't want to get sober. Like he even says
How would you describe yourself?
Describe myself in this moment?
No. Like at that guy showing up, how would you describe yourself? How were you showing up?
A complete jerk. Like I was someone that was just running off of ego, which I still do. Not gonna lie. Like I still run off of ego at times. Every once in a while I'll get vulnerable. But it's like I was running off a complete ego. I was lying about every aspect of my life because the aspects of my life I was scared of, And I was running off these aspects of life that were just...
You're so ticked they weren't buying
what
you're selling?
Everyone, they were like,
such a great salesman. What the heck?
You can't bull crap a bull crapper, And so I'm sitting there and I can't, like, phase them. They're just like, no, like, that's crap. Like, that's not true. Like, stop lying. And I just couldn't. And so for the first week is when you prepare for your step one, which is where you admit your life is or you admit your life has become unmanageable and that you are powerless over alcohol. And I didn't want to do that. Like, I just was like, I'm not powerless. Like, I have all the power in the world.
This is the problem of other people.
Yeah. Like, this is my life is unmanageable because my mom kicked me out because of
she's dumb.
Yeah, she's dumb. Like, because everyone else is too stupid to realize what I'm trying to do.
Love it.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting in there.
Why wouldn't people want you in the program?
Oh, yeah. You know, and I'm like, literally, I'm talking like I'm better than everyone else when really I had one shirt, two shirts, one pair of pants, one pair of socks, and like one pair of underwear. And my shoes literally had my toes sticking through them. And I'm like,
there were times where, I imagine there was very few times where you didn't have money. So to have affluence was probably really important to you.
Oh, for sure.
And man, the feeling of such a sham at that time to be that low, like.
Well, I was stupid. So, like, I didn't want to admit it at that time, but it was like, I bought a new pair of clothes every day, so I didn't have to hold on clothes because I was living in hotels.
Oh.
So when I went to jail, that's all I had because I would just throw away the clothes. Like, they're worth nothing now. I've worn them. They're ruined now.
Can you wash clothes now?
Yeah, I can wash clothes. I actually only have 14 days worth of clothes, which is just enough where I can wash them twice a week because I have certain ones that I like to wear. But the other ones are humbling because they were what was handed to me while I was in treatment.
Interesting.
I still have all the clothes that were handed to me in treatment. Like, brothers would come up to me and hand me these clothes, and I'd try to hold back my tears, and every once in a while they start falling. And, like, they would just start handing me these clothes. I finally had clothes, and instead of them being, like, super nice clothes, they were, like, some rugged ass
Humbling.
or rugged clothes. Sorry about that. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's crazy how, humility, it just hurts sometimes so much, but the healing power of it is profound, and it's really hard to resist how good it feels sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And, like, I literally wear those clothes every time I get home from work.
Sure.
Because
it's part of the ritual now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's just part of that, like, humbling experience.
Because you're going on, like, a year and change. Like, so 2020 was, like, a really seminal year for you.
Oh, it was huge. Like, 2020, everyone's talking about this miserable year. And
for you,
me, it was one of the best years of my life. Like, it was crazy.
That was like my experience too. 2020 has been a breakout year in all sorts of ways for me. And
it was like when I was.
Hat tip to you, by the way.
Thank you.
To not buy into all the stuff.
Yeah, I'm like sitting there commenting on people, getting resentful towards them because they're saying how horrible of a year it is. I'm like, you just have to look at the bright side. Like, trying to spit all this knowledge, when really it was like, what do I have to spit? I said all these other years were horrible and the worst year ever. And now that they're having one of those years, it's like, why am I giving them crap? Like, let them feel what they're feeling.
Wow. That's big for you.
Oh, yeah.
To have that compassion.
Every once in a while, I'd snap on.
I know it's more than every once in a while.
Yeah.
But that you practice compassion with, because I know that doesn't come out except for you first. Because if you were faking it, I'd call you on it right now.
Yeah.
But I know you practice that on yourself more than you ever have. And so for you to deal out compassion, like genuine compassion, it doesn't matter how much it is or how little, like, good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
It's a rare thing for me to express my emotions to someone and actually, like, sit there and be with them in the moment. Because I'm like, if I'm in the moment with them, then I'm not thinking about the future, which means I'm not planning, which means I'm dumb in that aspect. Because, like, I'm one of the people I work with, I ride home with them every day, and that's probably the only time during the day that I actually get vulnerable and talk with them about stuff. You know, that's one of the only times. All the other times during the week, I'm in the future, the past, or, like, living off of ego.
Well, you also work too, and you're also learning and growing other ways too. So it's not all that.
But even in meetings, it's almost like I'm sharing because I want to help people, but at the same time, I'm sharing because I want this recognition of this aspect of, like, oh, look how good he's doing. Like,
and I'm proud of you for working through that with me too.
Yeah. Yeah, that was hard. Not going to lie, like, just sitting here with you, like, just met you probably a week ago and had a few interactions, and I'm sitting here trying to get vulnerable with you, and I'm, like, struggling so hard because it's, like, that aspect of, like, I don't know him. What is he going to do to me, you know?
And then, for me to say something like, okay, so you've told me the stuff, right? The dirty, the nasty, the awful, and then I come back with you. I'm like, okay, so what's the real story? And you're like, I just told you.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, so how are you showing up today that matters because you've been doing the work the last year? And not just last year, but I mean, the last 3 years. But this last year, you really are owning like your life. You're looking in the mirror and you like who you are and who you're becoming, like warts and all.
Yeah. So what's actually funny is there's an aspect of me that doesn't like certain parts of me, and it's mostly my past. But like I haven't been able to work through that past as much. So there's this like some days I really hate myself, and some days I'm like in love with myself. Like I sit there in the mirror and I love myself. But then some days I can't even walk past the mirror. Like I avoid it, you know? And so for me this time around, it's been huge for me to do self-care. Because like if I'm, like this last month I did some things that I wasn't, just gonna be honest, I wasn't proud of. Like I hated myself for. And I've learned that like I have to accept that. But I stopped doing my self-care. I stopped cleaning my room. I stopped like actually like taking care of the house and being there for people. I stopped answering phone calls when people would call me. I was the person that...
It's a big deal for you.
Yeah. People could call me.
That's one of the signs for you, huh?
Yeah. And once I realized that, I'm like, okay, then obviously these other actions that I'm doing now currently are either wrong or misplaced because I'm not in the right place, you know? And so for me to sit there and realize that, it took me a few weeks. Not gonna lie, it took me a few weeks, but I realized it and I'm like, okay, I got to step back and like work on it.
Yeah, but it used to be a few months, if at all.
Oh, it wouldn't even be at all.
A few weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
And now a few weeks. And not only that, one of the things you shared about that I really loved too is you were actually willing to share that with like your family. And your family, would you describe your relationship with your family as stable but not close?
Yes. So
for you to like call moms and say, hey, moms, I did these things I'm not proud of. And moms to go into fix-it mode. And you're like, no, I don't need you to fix me. I just need to share with you, like, okay, like I'm doing just fine, like being self-critical. But for you to like let other people around you, like, I'm not proud of this. And then be open to feedback like you never have before. Huge.
Oh, huge, for sure. It's a new part of life that I'm still learning. Mm-hmm. Like I heard this aspect of like, oh, once you get sober for a year, you can get in a relationship. I'm sitting here, like it was actually today in work. I got vulnerable at work and I hated it, not gonna lie, but I was sitting there like, hey, what should I say to this girl? I really want to go out with her. And they're like, what are you doing? Like you literally just got out of this horrible relationship that lasted 3 weeks and you used her and took advantage of the whole situation. And I was like, well, like it helps me feel better. All these things. I'm like, it helps me feel better. Like I don't have to feel my emotions. Like when I'm with them, I'm good. You're like, but look how unmanageable your life got in just those 3 weeks, and you weren't even using drugs.
And you're like, did you just use the U word on me?
Yeah. And I'm sitting there trying to justify it, and one of my coworkers, she's sitting there like, no, like stop talking, just like accept it, like learn how to accept it, or don't talk at all. And I'm like, and she's a female too, and so I'm sitting there like, what is she talking about, you know? And she's like, just sit back and enjoy life. Like, why do you need someone in your life right now? Like, you don't need anyone. You're not ready for it. I'm like, when are you ready? And they're like, you won't ever be ready. It's just going to show up in your life. And you're sitting here searching for these relationships. And I got so like for the all dude grumpy.
So you get zen like there's times where you're totally zen, right?
Yeah.
And now you're getting zen. That like was like triggering you. You're like,
oh yeah. Oh, I knew it was triggered because I was sitting there like all angry and I'm resentful.
You can feel
and
it,
I'm like, I was so pissed. And they're just sitting there laughing about it. I'm like, you guys are jerks. But then I realized, no, they're like loving me.
Yeah.
You know?
And so as you're listening to this, you can see it as you listen. You've got a huge smile on your face. And to kind of laugh at our stupidity is a real like gift we can give ourselves. Like, oh, you know what? I'm being stupid. You can't ever get rid of the stupid. Like it doesn't ever go away, but it gets less and less, or it's around less and less like dramatic or significant things, and you're able to reduce it to a place where you just don't feed it. You're like, you're right, because I know if I'm getting like riled up, then you're right. And so you start recognizing those feelings coming up and getting the feedback. And I love that you're owning like who you are. And we talked about this too earlier, which is one of the things I had to bring up with you that I think is really that we share. And it has to go with part of growing up for you. was sexual trauma and then like porn. And we were talking about kind of like, so what about how do you bring that up with your higher power, right? And you're like, well, I'm actually pretty open about that. And I've just found that the more open you can be with the big guy or the universe or source or however you want to do it about the stuff that's ugly and the stuff that's good, just all of you, you find this peace about it that allows you to like keep on moving forward. Even though you haven't solved the problem, like the peace that like, okay, I'm okay, it's gonna be okay, and you can smile while you're kind of working through these really conflicting things. I really admired about you, and I had to bring that up because if anybody out there is struggling with, especially porn, but I mean substance, of course, or parents, or if you can just give it to a higher power, or at least just be totally open about it with the mountains, or Buddha, or Jesus, or whoever. If you can just be open all the way, not tell anything back, and like, this is who I am, the peace and like the acceptance, levels of acceptance is so powerful.
Yeah. Being open with my higher power is huge because he's the only person that knows everything. Mm-hmm. And like, for me, I call my higher power God just because it's the easiest 3-letter word that I know. You know, heard it all the time in church, the LDS church. And so it's one of the easiest words I knew how to say. And I was able to take away that shame aspect of that. So I'm able to open up. And when I pray, I tell him everything. Like when I'm struggling, I'm like, it's usually just me yelling at him for all the things that's going on in my life. So I name all the things that are going on. I just can't accept that like there's my part in it. Like it's not just him, or there's some lesson at the end of it. And
I would even add that you're less accepting or more accepting, because I actually pick up total acceptance from you.
Yeah.
It's, well, not total, but like you're practicing acceptance. I actually don't pick up a lot of resistance from you as much, maybe, as you've experienced in the past.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like my acceptance levels have gone through the roof.
Totally.
Because especially this last month with kind of the things that have been going on in my life, I had to learn to like step on my ego a little bit. Like I was running this like sober living. It wasn't official sober living, but it was just a place to kind of help people out, transition out of sober living to a new place. And I was trying to run this place, but it was all off of ego. And instead, I'm like, you know what? We're equals in here. The people that are here are going to stay here. I know 2 of them are going to be there the whole time. We'll split rent 3 ways, and we're equals. Instead of looking at this aspect of like, I'm better than everyone, and I'm this pillar in recovery. Because the truth is, I was selfish through all of it.
Yeah, once you set yourself up like that,
yeah,
you're dead meat.
Oh, yeah. And I noticed myself just slipping on all the things I like doing. Like I stopped going on road trips. I stopped doing all these things that I enjoy.
What did you replace it with? So what did you start doing after you stopped doing that stuff?
Replaced it with sex. Like,
okay.
Not going to lie. Like that was what I did. And resentment. Like I was feeding off of more resentment. Like I already live pretty much off of resentment. But like
that's true.
I was feeding off of more resentment than I could like bite off. Mm-hmm. You know, like I can handle quite a bit of resentment, but at this point it was getting to a point where I was hurting more people and being resentful at them for getting hurt.
I know, right?
Yeah. Like I slept with one of my friend's girls and I was like, I was resentful at him for having a girl when I couldn't find one. And then I was
from some time in the past.
Oh yeah.
He has no clue what you're thinking.
Oh yeah. And it's like I'm resentful at it and I'm manipulating the situation to make him accept the fact that I'm with his girl and he has to be okay with it. Like I gave him that ultimatum. I was like, either you're going to be okay with it or not, but it's going to happen and you just got to accept it. Like that's what's going to happen. And he's like,
very Machiavellian of you.
Yeah. And it was part of me was torn and part of me was like I love this. Like I love this so much because I'm able to control both of them. Mm-hmm. His ex and him. And I'm able to control him and it felt so powerful. And for me to be able to feel that power, it was like I'm God almost. Like that was how I was looking at it. Like I started calling myself God for a week. Like yeah. It was like I stopped praying for a while there and I was still reaching out to my support group and they're calling me out. They're like, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. And I'm like, so that I call other people to try to get one person.
Right.
I found one person to like accept it. And I'm like, all right, I'm good then. And then I accepted it. And then as soon as I accepted
you justified it?
No, actually, it was weird. Is I accepted that that's what I'm doing, and I want to do that.
That you were looking for that justification.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a dirtbag. I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna be a dirtbag all the way.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna be a complete like, dirtbag. Like I accepted that, and what was crazy, the next day, I ended things with her, and it was just at this point where it was like I can't be around you, and she even asked like, this is what I wanted the whole time. She wanted a relationship. She's like, even asked if we could just be friends with benefits. And it was like, I literally sat there, my hands were shaking, and I said no. And I was like, that's all I've wanted for literally the last year, was just a friends with benefits where I can just get the validation I want and then send them on their way.
So as you're listening to this, I need you to like hit the pause button on the judgment or whatever you're thinking. And here's the real treasure for me as you're sharing this, okay? So there's one thing that I've learned that everyone who's listening needs to hear. And well, if you want to do love in your life, you have to hear this. So I've learned if you want to be Batman, you have to understand that you've got Bane in you too. And until you accept that you've got Bane in you, you can never be Batman. And for those of you who don't know what that reference is, for any of you that don't accept your darkness, like all the way, like you can be the worst person in your world, bar none. You cannot become the hero of your journey. And so what I see in you, okay, and like I know we came up with the nickname at the beginning, but like Panther's come up for me for you. Like this is the Panther. Like this is where you accept that you're a predator, but that you're also the kind of like you can purr and you can be like this whole person. Because when you accept that, the charge goes away. The rebellious you is like, oh, like this is not what I really want. Like here I am getting what I want, and I'm saying no. What is wrong with me? But you accepted who you are. And so you're able to say, like, oh, I'm messed up. Like, that's messed up. And then to like acknowledge, like, I'm messed up. Okay. Then in one day, you've gotten to work to fixing it till now, weeks later, and this thing that has been, not cool, you're actually going to like solving problem mode. And that is massive. Now that right there comes from a place of love. And part of you is like shining through, like that's huge.
Yeah. And that's cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Did you even realize that?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
Like
people try and like only like let their good stuff come through. Until I accept that I am the worst piece of crap in my life, or at least have the potential to be, then I can't be the most awesome, like kick butt guy in my world.
Yeah.
But if I want to be kick butt guy, I have to acknowledge that I have the potential to be this person, and it never goes away. It's always going to be there. Hat tip to you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, what was crazy, some people don't believe in spirits. I believe in that aspect of energy. And when she left, and literally almost like the whole house relapsed. Like the whole house there relapsed.
Attitude reflects leadership.
Yeah. And so like one of the roommates relapsed on shrooms, one of them relapsed on weed, and both of their drugs, one of theirs is meth, is his drug of choice. The other one is heroin. And they only did that, and they reached out to people and they worked through it. And that was kind of the points that I started realizing, like, I've really like screwed up here. Like I'm not doing what I need to do to show leadership. I'm the one with the most time sobriety, and it's going horrible. And these other two roommates that were living there, they were a couple, they relapsed together. And they were in this room, and there was this energy in this room, and I wouldn't even go down to the living room because it just felt wrong down there. And I just barely got introduced to this energy world. And it was like, I didn't know what to do but reach out to people. And I started reaching out to people, and we did so much work in that room with energy. And it was cool to see this aspect of like this room almost lighten up. It was almost like there's this light in this room and the whole house, you know?
Yep.
And I've been able to connect a lot more with my higher power doing that, because like this energy was eating me alive, and it was eating everyone else alive in the house.
Yeah.
Like one guy actually moved out because of that energy. Like he was like, the energy here is
Who wants
bad.
to live with dementors in your house?
Oh yeah.
Totally.
And it's like it was feeding off of us where we had no energy left. It was like literally just eating us alive. And we were able to get through that like just a few days ago, and it was like, or like I think think it was 2 days ago, and now the house feels amazing. We were able to eat in that room again and like have dinner together, and like we cooked steaks yesterday and just enjoyed ourselves. And that's huge for me to be able to sit with people, not expect to have conversation or anything, just to eat with them and just be in that moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
For you to value peace over chaos now, that's massive.
Oh yeah.
So there's two more things I want you to bring me home on. Okay, so one of them is how are you learning to make things right with people? So when you're blessed to be a leader like you are, and you know it, that means the choices you've made have influenced other people to choices or decisions that are not like healthy, or they even maybe really bad. How have you found ways to make that right? And second, you and your brother have a real source of pain growing up that is awful. And now you're both adults, and your family is in a stable place, and you want to have a relationship with your brother. How are you doing? How are you going to do that? How are you going to figure that out? So bring me home with those two things.
Okay, so first,
how have you learned how to make things right?
Yeah, first thing with that is I asked the person, I'm like, how can I make this situation right? So like, for example, with the girl that I was sleeping with, I had intercourse with her in one of the roommates' beds. Because he said, go ahead, but I know he's a pushover, so I knew I was able to do that.
Total bully.
Yeah, and so he let me go in there, and I destroyed his sheets, and I was like, how do I make this right? And he's like, you don't have to, like, we're good. I knew we weren't.
Yeah.
So I talked with other people, and they're like, buy him new sheets. And, like, I apologized and handed him the new sheets, and, like, it may have not made the whole situation right where he trusts me again, but it made the situation right in that aspect. And so it's to build that trust for me with people where it was at before, I have to work on that. Like, it's a daily thing. It's not something I can just
even
be
as
like.
You're talking, I can see like the humbling like hurts.
Yeah. Like, I can't expect people just to trust me overnight. Like, I literally have to walk the walk and show them that they can trust me. Because
but have you like learned to trust yourself more as you do stuff like that? Yeah, you haven't.
Not really, because like the aspect of it is, how can I trust myself when I'm a year sober and I've done something like that?
Okay.
You know, like,
yeah.
That's hard.
Keep it real.
Yeah. And like, I'm sitting here like, I used to be such a compulsive liar. I don't even know, like, when I'm in the moment,
yeah,
like, I'm able to feel
so hard on that, and I'm so proud of you. I really am.
I have to correct myself all the time. Like, I'm sitting there telling a story, and I'm like, wait, that's not wrong. This is actually the true story, because I would tell half truths.
Yeah, tell the whole story. Yeah, for sure.
And it's super hard because I don't want to, but at the same time, I need to be able to stay sober.
You just know.
Yeah.
You know it doesn't, like, that's from when you walked into that Renaissance Ranch and you decided to, like, cop to what you're, like, the real thing, the real deal. And you're like, here it is. Gah!
Yeah.
That good feeling is stuck with you the whole time. And you know if you want that, you got to do that.
For sure.
Dude, like, I see you. Rad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the aspect of my brother is I want a relationship with him. I don't know how likely that is to happen. The thing is, all I can do is invite him to things, ask him to come to certain things. Like, just recently I asked him to go shooting with me. I'm like, hey, I just got off probation. I no longer have felonies. Can we go shooting? And he's like, yeah, let's do it this Sunday. And then it never happened.
Why didn't it happen?
Like, I told him over and over again, like, I don't have a felony anymore. Like, I've checked into it. And it was like, also didn't want to do the work either. Like, this is the hard part for me to get honest about, because I want him to have all the blame. But he's like, you need to call this number to see if you can do it. Even though I looked at my backgrounds, and I'm like, I don't have it. And my probation officer even said to my lawyer.
You didn't know for sure.
Yeah, so I took everyone else's word and my background check to say that I don't have this anymore, but I had to call this number. And there's a part of me that just didn't want to fucking call that, didn't want to call that number. Like, that.
Really, 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 really bad. Didn't want to call that
Yeah,
number.
it's like, I was afraid to go spend that time with him, even though for once he actually agreed to it. Like, before, it was like, hey, let's go for a ride in your car. He just got a new Camaro, and I'm like, let's go for a ride in it. And he's like, yeah, we'll do it another week. All right. And so over and over and over again, it's like, let's do it another time. I'm too busy right now, or this and that. And it was the first time that he was like willing to do it. And now I'm the one that's not willing to do it.
Are you ready to forgive him?
That's the thing, is I want to, but at the same time, there's this part that like, if I forgive him, I give him this power.
Yeah, that's you thinking anyway.
And if I give him this power, what's to say he's not going to take advantage of it again?
Or he gets off the hook, or
yeah.
What's the consequence? I had to have this life, but what's the consequence for him?
Yeah, and that's where like I've actually had to humble myself, because his wife doesn't know. I've confronted him about it with him in like therapy.
Oh, you have gotten therapy together. Okay.
Yeah, and I just confronted him about it.
Good job.
He didn't want to admit to anything. He said, I didn't know that happened. He's like, if it did, obviously you're saying it did, so it probably happened. And I'm like, all right, like let's just move on, you know. And I'm like, I'm gonna let mom and dad know. They know now, but his wife doesn't know. And it's like, I told him that's for him to tell her. I want to tell her so she can see why I beat him up so much, instead of looking at me as this evil, like disgusting person that hurt him all the time. Because that's all she sees. She hates me. Like, she feels this anger towards me, and I can always see it, like sense it. And I want to tell her with everything in me, just to like ruin him, because she looks at him as this perfect person.
Would it ruin him? Like, we all got stuff, right?
I don't know. I hope so. I like, part of me like if I tell her, it has to ruin him. If it doesn't, then like, what's the point? You know.
So you want it to go the way you want it to go.
Oh yeah.
You're not willing to let go, let it happen, whatever's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and if it was 2 years ago, I would have done it. But the thing is, I can't control how she's gonna act.
And you want to so bad.
Oh yeah, and like if I were to tell her, I'd have to do it with him there, and it would have to be in this aspect of like love and care, not this aspect of resentment.
And you're just not there yet.
Yeah, and so there's no point in me going there and doing that.
Not in that way.
Yeah, the only point for me now is to work on myself until I'm to a point where I'm able to address the things I need to, and I don't want to right now. If I'm going to be 100% honest, I just don't want to. Like, I'm at a point where I got a lot of other things to work on. That's a huge one. That's like the core thing I need to work on. But I have these little things that are a little bit easier to work on before I get to it.
You know, there's a lot to be said for, so first of all, I want to notice you for acknowledging. Second, being able to share this in a way like no one knows your name, and but your experience is real. And there's other brothers out there who want to be with their brothers, like in a way that's like brotherly, and there's stuff in the way. Whether it's little stuff or big stuff, doesn't matter, it's still stuff. And you're willing to like say like, this is where I'm at. Radically accept what is, because if you don't, then you can't like move forward, and you're like in a position to move forward when you're ready to move forward. And whatever's supposed to happen will happen. Like that I know you know. Like, karma's real. You know that everything happens right for a purpose, and it'll happen. And if you're not ready, you also know that sometimes the way to solve a problem is go and solve other problems, because that either gets you some momentum or gets you some like breakthroughs in other areas. And it builds upon each other, right? Like when you're good at relationships, you can find that you also start getting good at self-help or self-care. And if you're good at self-care, then you start being really good at helping others. And when you're good at helping others, then they want to help you. And then when you're like willing to receive help, then you can get further. And so I see also the wisdom in kind of like, maybe if I don't go at this here, I can like get some other momentum in other parts, and I'll go there. But even just to bring it up, because for you, I can also, like, family's part of your future. I know you see it. Like, you want to be in a committed relationship at some point in the future. You want kids, right?
It's hard, because part of me wants kids, but part of me hates the aspect of, if I have kids, then I have to spend money on them. And like my greed takes over.
Totally.
Where it's like, I'd rather not have kids or have someone else I have to take care of so I can make money.
Okay. Yeah. That's real. So then, however, that relationship and those relationships, they matter to you more than at least as much as money does and stuff, right?
It's like almost right up even. Like I have a tattoo that says DTD, dedicated to dollars. And so it's like, if I do that, am I keeping to my tattoo? You know? And it's like, that's where it's really hard for me.
You know, one thing we've learned here at the Winning Together podcast is how can they win together?
Yeah.
How can you put dedicated to dollars and brothers, DTD and B? Like, how can you do both? So I think if you start inserting the and, you'll come up with all, like, I know you solve problems and can be creative. you're also getting better at not creating a bunch of new problems for yourself. So
Slowly but surely.
yeah. It's progress is progress. That's happiness. And the happiness is written all over your face. So like, and not just your face, your body too. The way you carry yourself, you are becoming more okay with being okay. And that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. This is Shay. I'm the friend with the axe Azlet, and I've got my man, the Panther. Thank you for being here today and sharing what you have to. And this doesn't have to be the only one. So as things more come up, let's crack on together because we win together. Any final thoughts?
Other than I've actually learned some things about myself again with you, which is cool because these conversations always help me learn things, and I'm able to get honest about more things. So thank you.
You are welcome. Yeah. We win together. And if you're not winning, I'm not winning. And the way we win together is we take responsibility for each other. And then we go and we do. Love it. Okay? Everyone, this is supported, sponsored, and made possible by I Am Recovery. Find them on the web, imrtc.com, or call them at 801-407-9998. Have a wonderful day.